Hopefully Knowles is fit. Come on, you mighty Saints.
Yeah, so obviously we've only seen highlights of this, so our knowledge of the game is distinctly limited. But 6 apiece tells me it must have been competitive at half-time. And from what I've seen in the highlights, it seemed like Lee were actually putting an effort in, which you can't always have said from previous weeks. We've seen teams get away from them, haven't we?
Like if they play the sort of team that either of the two teams they divide, they put in a big effort, but against teams that they're really inferior to in quality. But when they play against teams that they might have a shot against, they throw in the towel mid-second half.
Yeah, it felt like it. I mean, at the start of the second half, obviously, just looking at the clock, obviously Saints scored twice in the first kind of 5 minutes, didn't they? And it looked like they were going to score again, but that's when Gelling had his intercept. So that it obviously did break the momentum in terms of them getting a try back on them. And yeah, it didn't feel like, you would have expected Saints to pull away in this one, but they didn't for whatever reason. They just couldn't get it done. But yeah, I really don't have much more to say because I haven't seen more than 3 minutes of highlights.
Yeah, Bentley's potential leg injury is a worry. The Saints that David's pulled out. Ben Flower went off injured for Lee as well, which is a worry for them because he's one of their experienced, genuine Super League caliber campaigners. Saints played some nice bits according to the highlights, didn't they? But they must have had a lot of missteps as well in this game, and so it'll be interesting to see where they get to. Sione Matautia seems like he enjoyed himself in the second row. I'm guessing he'll be switching over to the right second row rather than the left second row he played in this game for maybe a spell now if Bentley is injured. But I just come back to Lee. Ryan Brealey was back at fullback this week. He's in and out of that position. Ben Reynolds has played every week consistently, to be fair, since he's come back into the club. But Matty Wilde played alongside him in the half. That's not a Super League half-back pairing.
No.
Mostly because of the second player mentioned. And so it just seems like there's no consistency of selection in those positions. I know some of that's due to injury and stuff, and some of it's waiting for Elliott to be available to probably then nail down that fullback spot long term. But then is Reynolds and Brealey, or Reynolds and Mellor, or Mellor and Brealey, or even Jamie Ellis maybe might come back into things at some point. Are these really a winning halfback combination at Super League level? I really worry where the wins are going to come from.
You were talking about this last week, and it made me think because you were comparing like Lee in 2021 with London in 2019, and there was definitely something I think of 2019 that London's performances with, to be honest, a halfback pairing that wasn't at the start of the season. We weren't exactly raving about Abdul, were we?
No. And he had a few different partners, to be fair, until Morgan Smith came in and kind of settled into that other position. James Cunningham played a bit of halfback, didn't he?
Yeah. For me, it felt like in 2019, London were dragging performances out of other teams because they kept stepping up. This year, it feels like, because Leah, in most weeks actually have been pretty poor. That's why I think the Wakefields and to a lesser extent the Hull KRs of this world and stuff, they just don't seem to be pushing themselves forward because they always feel like they've got, there's always at least somebody worse than us, whereas in 2019 you couldn't rely on that. So Lee need to get himself sorted out and fast because the season's going to pass them by before they know it, and then they'll be back in the Championship. So
yeah. And another week where we can say Saints didn't find top gear, so let's wonder if they will next week. We'll get to see that in the Challenge Cup. Game 3, a game we know even less about than that game because we don't have the stats to give context to the performance. But Wakefield 18, Catalans 38. It was 20 points to 12 to the Dragons at half-time. Chris Kendall was the referee. Out of the disciplinary from this, Josh Drinkwater got a grade A dangerous contact, so carries no match penalty notice from that charge. And Jordan Dazaria back for his first game for Catalans, his first game back in the Super League. A grade B dangerous throw, 1 match penalty notice for him. No fan views on this game here either. You know, Wakey White, where are you?
Where are you?
Anyway, we'd love to hear from some Wakefield fans, and I appreciate it would have been difficult for Catalans fans to see this one, given the R-League situation. I assume they get it in France, but I don't know how it works. Anyway, what you can take from this game is Tom Davies is putting himself in the frame for the third Tom in the race for the England World Cup spot. There was some Makinson-esque finishing from Tom Davies in this one. To get his hat trick of tries. Some really good passes involved in setting up his tries as well. One was a really good cut out pass out to the centres from Maloney, and then the next try, the instead of cutting out Tompkins, the passing flow went to Tompkins, and Tompkins cut out the centre. It just meant that Wakefield left edge was totally guessing all the time about how it was gonna be done out there. Liam Kay defensively was a little bit lost at sea with trying to guess which way to go with that. Ollie Ashall-Bott, everyone seemed to credit his performance was quite good on his debut for Trinity. He scored a nice try, a try that you could imagine Catalans' backup fullback Arthur Morg scoring. It looked a bit Morg-esque the way he stepped in so quickly and shot under the tackles, and so nice to see Ashall-Bott doing some good stuff in Super League. The one thing from this game, I don't know if you picked it out from the highlights, Al, was there was kind of a bit of a swing on 2 forward passes, one called and one not called.
That's exactly what I've got written down.
Yeah, so for Dean Fare's second try on 68 minutes, the scores at that time were 2018 after Wakefield had scored the first half, the second half to close down the margin. And then Wakefield had another chance where it looked like Liam Kay had gotten in the corner off a neat little offload from Bill Tupu, but the play was called back for a forward pass. Now, I'm assuming the pass that was called as the forward pass was the Jowett to Tupu pass that looked kind of flat at best, rather than the offload in the corner, unless the commentators completely and the match reporter who wrote it up in the thing completely missed it. But I'm fairly sure, and it was a foot in touch or something, but I'm fairly sure the referee gave a forward pass signal that you could see. So I'm giving everyone else the credit that that was what it was, a forward pass. And I can only see it being the Jowett one because the Tupu one wasn't forward.
Yeah, I agree. I saw both of them and I thought, yeah, well, that's a turning point, because at a 20-point winning margin, this wasn't a 20-point win for Catalan, really, in the sense that Wakefield were very competitive. And, I'm not necessarily one to believe in turning points, but, when you get a forward pass given against you and then a slightly dodgy looking pass.
Very dodgy looking. Tom Davies' netball pass to Mike McMeekan. Great stuff from McMeekan and Vare, by the way, to get that try scored. But Tom Davies' pass was forward.
Yeah. So
far more forward than Jowett's, which I think probably was too.
Yeah, Wakefield can count themselves a little bit unlucky in this one. They were definitely competitive from what we saw. Kind of coming back into it when perhaps they might not have thought of that they would. But yeah, unfortunately, sometimes when you're in bad form, these things go against you, don't they?
Well, Catalans would have been thinking back to the Hull KR game that got tied up in round one. It's a similar calibre of opposition, similar circumstances to the match, and if that had gone the other way in those two instances, it would have been a very different look to the scoreline, like you say. But in the end, Sammy Soni-Langi scored a try where he just wanted it way more than Lee Kershaw did, and that'll be a worry to Chris Chester. I think if they'd have played right to the end, they would have taken more heart from this one. But after that little turnaround around the sort of 70-minute mark, it feels like they dropped off.
And that's what I was meaning about this whole thing about 2019 London. This thing about because Lee are playing so badly, Wakefield like, it's got away from us. It's fine. We'll beat Lee when we need to beat them, and that'll be that. So I do think there's definitely something about that with some of these poorer teams at the foot of the table, I would say.
Let's move on to the second televised game then, Alan.
Yep, so this one was Salford 18, Castleford 28. Cass also ahead at the break, but narrow margin, just 14-12 up. And Robert Hicks, with his, I would say his unruly beard, but more ruly hair, was in charge with this one. So Cass made just one more break and scored one more try, but had over 300 more metres at nearly a metre per carry better average gain. Errors and especially penalties hurt Salford's chances as much as anything. They made 2 more errors and conceded 5 more penalties. For Cass, it was Ollie Holmes with 54 tackles, 20 of which were for marker. That's fantastic. Darryl Alfort's with 133 metres. Liam Watts with a try and 131 metres. He does like a long scamper this year, doesn't he?
Oh, rampaging.
And Peter Matautia, or Matautai, or whatever you want to pronounce it, a try assist, 5 tackle busts, 117 metres and 3 offloads. For Salford, Elliot Keir, playing at fullback, had 6 tackle busts and 148 metres. Danny Addy had 42 tackles and a few problems with disciplinary. Seb Ikehifo had 106 metres, and Callum Watkins had a try assist and 106 metres.
Yeah, Danny Addy would have had a really good game if he could, not make high tackles.
What was his charges in the end? Did he actually get charged?
Danny Addy got a grade A charge for a high tackle, no match penalty notice, and Grant Millington got a caution for a reckless trip. Slightly surprising that there was nothing more for Lee Mossop, who was simbing during the game, but I guess there would have definitely been something more for Lee Mossop if that arm that swung round had have collected Richardson's head rather than missed his head. So I think it was right to card him for the lateness and the intent that was in that, as well as the build-up of high tackles that had gone on throughout that second half. I think played a part in that simbing in, but probably because he didn't make actual head contact, he got off with a ban.
Yeah, I think he's slightly fortunate, I would say there. So in terms of fan views, Fat by Rob says, solid win against a tough side bordering on grubby. It was especially pleasing considering the inexperienced bench and the fact we lost a couple of players early on. Great first try made by Danny Art, another strong Macca performance. I'm allowed to slate Hicks as we won. I don't think he got a single thing right. Operation Piss the League is back on track. We were 4 from 5 in 17. #Coif.
Craig, the expat Cass fan, said, was good to see us get back to winning ways against a Salford team that wouldn't quite go away. Macca involved in everything again, and the 2 young gun forwards given a run showed up well. P.S. How good do we look in black and amber?
I don't know which shade of yellow is Cass yellow. It bugs me. They seem to change it every 2 years.
Well, it's been orange, hasn't it, for a while? They've gone for the full-on tiger stripes look, and I guess the traditionalists in the fan base haven't enjoyed that. But they've thrown in a third shirt the last 2 years, haven't they? That pleases those people, and clearly Craig's one of those people pleased by it. It's a nice shirt. It's not bad. It's better than Salford's. I don't really like Salford's this year.
Should we talk about the match?
Wigan's Salford shirt's better than Salford's Salford shirt.
Yeah, it is actually.
Yeah, talk away about the match, Al.
Yeah, I have to say, I thought Salford actually did a really good job in slowing Castleford down in this one. I really felt like they were doing a massively good job at the play of the ball. And if you're a Cass fan, you see that as grubby, don't you? As Rob says. But it felt like they were doing a relatively good job of slowing Cass, which is what you need to do, because when Cass got away, as when McShane made the break and fed.
Yeah,
did he feed Watt straight away, or was somebody in between? I can't remember now.
It went to
anyway.
Didn't it go to Shenton and then back inside?
That was it. Yeah, but yeah. When you don't control the play of the ball, McShane's just gonna kill you, isn't he? So that was obviously something they wanted to focus on, and they did a reasonably good job with it for most of the game, it has to be said. Again, another in-game injury to Massey. But yeah, I actually agree with Craig actually about how the replacement forwards actually did a really good job, and with players like Ollie Holmes stepping up and doing that kind of defensive effort, it kind of filled in that gap that you would